Well, welcome everyone. This is our first ever virtual IBPSA-USA happy hour. And we're calling this the IBPSA Mixa. Has a nice little ring to it. And this particular session in honor of the summer solstice is the solstice sessions. So I just wanted to give a little background before we jump into some of our events tonight. We'll have some talks. Well, both Sukreet and Yue are here, and then they'll be presenting a couple nice topics about daylight. And then we're going to have a Jeopardy round, and then have some social time for people to connect. And if you want to share your webcam, we very much encourage virtual backgrounds that are sun themed. You can see I've got a lighthouse in the background with the sunset. Definitely, happy to celebrate the solstice with you all. So just really brief background. I'm getting a chat. Let's see. Okay. So this session is, the whole idea behind this. This started with the IBPSA-USA Research Committee. So for those of you who don't know, I just wanted to give some brief background. So this committee, as part of IBPSA, promotes research activities, generating new ideas, connections, and trying to engage our community here to make sure that we're having a knowledge share and a share of ideas. So we sponsor webinars, events, and things like this, happy hour, so that we can make sure that we're all able to see what the gaps are and make practitioners aware of new advances in the field of research. And the committee meets monthly. And then within that, there are 3 subcommittees. So just thought I'd give a little bit of background. So the group that's organizing this event is the Architectural Simulation Subcommittee. We have a couple of members from that committee on here as well. David Goldwasser is one of those. He'll be hosting our Jeopardy round tonight. Yeah, so our objective is to basically, it's a place where anyone who doesn't, necessarily belong somewhere else can kind of come and talk about things, maybe not related as much to energy, but indoor air, lighting, acoustics, pretty much anything that you want to explore. Our group supports that. We also have a monthly meeting, and we do activities such as presenting at conferences together, doing research on metrics. Project Stasio was started under our subcommittee, and then now this happy hour. The other subcommittees, if anyone is interested, are emerging simulation technology and urban scale simulation. Just really briefly, if you're interested in joining a subcommittee, you can go on IBPSA-USA's website under committees, and there's a link to, if you scroll down, apply to join. You can fill that in, and that will come to either Nathaniel, or I think it will come to Nathaniel, and he can forward it on to the right place. So with that, I just want to intro our, like I said, this is our first ever happy hour event. As we go, we'll evolve, and likely each one will be different. We're thinking these will be quarterly sessions that are informal for all of us to connect, and have a different topic for each one. So in the fall, it might be, acoustics or energy or something else. Definitely open for ideas if you all have something you want to learn about, and just really an opportunity to learn and connect with everyone. And this is kind of the general format. We might deviate from this a little bit. As I said, it's informal, but we'll have 2 sessions, so each about 15 to 20 minutes, including questions, and then we'll have Jeopardy. And this is just a little preview, sneak peek of the questions and topics for Jeopardy. And then, as I said, if you have time and you want to stick around, we're happy to all chat. So with that, I'm going to actually stop my share, and I just want to introduce our first speaker. So Sukreet Singh is here, so hopefully you'll be able to share your screen in a minute, but he's the Director of Energy Analytics for Cuningham Group Architecture. He leads cutting-edge research and analysis for high-performance integrated design and techniques from early concept to the project document stage. He specializes in lighting, daylighting, energy modeling, airflow, CFD, all of which have been implemented as an inherent part of Cuningham Group's design workflow. He has a background in both architecture and engineering and has experience working on different project types and climate zones. And he has received several national and international awards, is an author of a net zero energy book, and has presented at numerous prestigious conferences. So I've had the pleasure of hearing his presentation before, and it is really great. So excited to have him here with us. And Sukreet, I'll pass it on to you.
That's good. Thanks, Nicole. I appreciate that. Can you hear me and see me properly?
We can.
Perfect. And can you see my screen?
Yes.
Perfect.
Great.
So thanks, Nicole. I appreciate all of that. And this is a presentation that was given in 2019. So I just left it original without those things. And just point today was to have some sort of a discussion on this. And again, when we presented that in a couple of years ago, or probably 3 years ago, it started at a green bulb, then it came to the ASHRAE. But here's the premise of it. Daylighting is beautiful, as we all know it, right? And that's why we are celebrating it. But when we started all of this back in 60s and 70s, a lot of times we started with artificial lighting. And at that point, we even started creating buildings which were windowless. Because the whole point of that era was, well, we need to conserve energy. What's the best way to do it? Well, we have air conditioning, we have electric lighting and all of those aspects of it. But that era started right before that era, when artificial lighting came in and people said, why do we even need this? Let's just create a box. And this is the type of architecture that came in. But then the energy crisis happened and we came to the whole new spectrum and we said, how can we reduce the energy in this whole site? We said, well, lighting or electric lighting takes a lot of power. So let's do a lot more daylighting, and daylighting is free. So why not capitalize on that with daylighting strategies from that perspective? So we saw a lot more glazing come in. And at that era, lighting used to be like 20 to 25% of your overall pie of your EUI. And then it was a big enough chunk to be able to go from the daylighting sites. And we saw an extreme cases sometimes when we had light shelf, which were almost as deep as 12 feet. Just to be able to get the light deeper into the space, and then sloped ceiling and everything else that we did, which was beautiful to some extent, but at the same time, in my opinion, we took it the whole different extreme. And then we saw buildings like this, completely glass, or a lot of lighting coming in. So that was the preface for this. And then we saw a lot of articles that came in. Oh, daylighting can save big because we have a lot of light coming in, which we can capitalize on and generally use it for free, and a lot of those things. So we can reduce cooling costs, we can reduce overall operational cost, and a lot of those things that were part of it. And primarily it was, the preface for that was electric light use electricity. Electricity is expensive, daylighting is free, electric light is hotter than daylight, electric light leads to more air conditioning than daylight. So why don't we do all of these things? And that led to all the energy savings that could be derived from lights being off and AC being reduced. And pretty much every code top 10 awards that we have seen at that point, or even today, incorporate daylighting as part of the energy efficiency strategy from that perspective. But let's look at it a little bit more. Like 1985, we used to design buildings with 2 watts per square foot of electric light. Then 1998, a decade later, we were more close to 1.4 watts per square foot. 2008, 1.2 watts per square foot. That was probably the last of the fluorescent era that we saw. After that, the LEDs came in. And then 2014, when we were doing our projects, we were down to 0.74 watts per square foot. And again, these are all school buildings. I should have prefaced that, since there are a lot of projects that our company had done in schools also. So I just took those examples. And then 2016 was when we created a school which almost took it down to 0.6 watts per square foot for the whole building, 0.45 watts for the whole classroom. And now we are designing to less than 0.4 watts per square foot in general, our projects. So what am I trying to say? I'm trying to say is, with decades, as the decades has passed, the amount of electric light that we were displacing has reduced drastically in terms of how much we are putting in. And this is what has happened. There has been all different sources of light, but LED starting in sub 2000 just shot up in terms of the efficacy, which was lumens per watt, and left everything behind, uh, right? Theoretical limit being so high. But this is where daylight is. At this point, in terms of the watt that the heat that it brings in, the lumens per watt of a typical daylight would be at this side of a band. We are short, the LED has shot that up also. So again, going back to where we were, 25% of things being lighting, we are less than 10% now, which is the overall sector of lighting in the same area. This used to be in Colorado when we did this. I would surpass all of this, assuming you all know all of these metrics. So this is what I want to really hone down to. So we took a particular office building, and I'm trying to go a little bit faster because we started late, so that I give you a full time and we have some time for discussion. So stop me if you think I'm going too fast, though. So
good.
this
You don't need to rush, but I think you're good. So
okay,
I'll leave it up
sounds
to you.
good. So in this whole side, we were looking at 4 different examples. One example being the different office spaces that we were looking at. Maybe an office space which has no windows. Second, it has some view windows with some sort of a shade. Third, it has the same view window shade, but clear story windows. The fourth case being clear stories, skylights, and we added skylights to it on the back side of that specific office space. At that time, we assumed it to be the code building, like good, if probably much better than the code, I should say. Wall effective R value being R26, roof R value R30, decent U values for our windows that we were looking at when we were modeling all of this. So then we just wanted to compare these 4 different scenarios. First, from the daylighting perspective, then second, from energy perspective. So let's look at it from daylighting first. And the metric we used was spatial daylight autonomy, which was looking at what percentage of your space is hitting 50%, 30-foot candles for 50% of time from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. for the whole year. So when you don't have any windows, of course, there is no lighting, right? No daylighting. So we have 0% spatial daylight autonomy. When it was the view only aspect of it, and again, we were facing south in this scenario, we were about 7% spatial daylight autonomy. Once we added clear story, there was more light that could go on the backside. We were about at 42%. Once we added the skylights, just to balance all the light side of it, because there's light coming from the side lighting and then the top lighting, we were about 96% of spatial daylight autonomy. So once we're looking at all of these aspects, we do know the more amount of apertures we are adding in terms of the glazing, whether it in the sidewall or the top side of it, there is a lot more amount of good daylighting that's penetrating into the space. No, no surprises here though, right? So in this case, hold on a second. So sorry, I just got distracted. So now the second point is, now let's look at it from a graphical perspective. So now we have one side of this being better. So look at x-axis, which is energy use intensity, and then the y-axis is spatial daylight autonomy. So what does this mean? The lower the energy use, better the building. The higher the spatial daylight autonomy, the better the building, right? So we're just trying to understand one simple graph so that other graphs that will follow would make sense. So in this case, that's your best design. You have really less amount of energy use and you have high amount of daylight that's coming into the space. And then the other side of that is the poor design, in which we are looking at really high energy use and really low amount of daylight. So let's look at how does this used to pan when we were in the era of 1980s, when we were designing our buildings with 2 watts per square foot of our lighting power density. So when we did not have any windows, we were around a particular EUI number. When we added views or we added clear story, this is again without daylighting controls on this side. So once we are looking at that, the more amount of apertures we are adding, energy use goes up, right? But so does your daylighting autonomy. And this is coming from because the more glazing you're adding, the more amount of heating and cooling you need to be able to compensate for that. Now, let's look at it from other perspective. When we used to add the daylighting controls, that graph used to flip. My windows now are, if it's without windows, you're using a lot more energy use than when you have clear story and skylights, everything in. And that is primarily happening because once you have the daylighting controls, the amount of energy that's needed gets offset based on the electric light being reduced. So once we have reduced the electric light, the overall amount of energy use goes down. And that's because we had that 20 to 25% of the pie for the light. Now, what happens today? When we are designing our projects to almost 0.4 watts per square foot, uh, without daylighting controls, again, you will see the more apertures we are adding, the energy use still goes up again because it's without daylighting controls. But what happens once we add daylighting controls? The graph doesn't flip like it used to previously. And since it's not flipping, and why is that not flipping? It's basically saying the amount of penalties that we would typically have because of our extra heating and cooling node does not necessarily offset the amount of electric load that it's offsetting at that point. So that's why our graph is not flipping per se. Some of you might have realized that the x-axis was probably different, but this is what was happening in 1985. Once we had it with our controls, this used to flip. So the clear story with skylight option was much less energy use intensive versus just no windows. Whereas now what's happening is the graph is not flipping, it just become more closer to each other. But end of the day, we have to be very cognizant. So what am I saying? And even we can get, how much time do I have? About 3 more minutes left. So we can get into payback calculations also. There's an added cost for daylighting, especially once we are adding sunshades, we are adding clear story, we are adding skylights, and we were looking at the Colorado utility rates at that point. And payback on those side, if you were in the range of say lighting power density of 2 years, we could see a lot more paybacks for all of those strategies around 10 years in certain areas and around 6-7 years in other areas like California, because your utility rates are a lot more higher. But now with 0.5, that payback period and number of years has increased so much. So then the question is, do we really need to do a lot more in terms of those or no? And is there a reason to do daylighting? Yes, it may not make sense from energy efficiency side that much, but does it still make sense? Absolutely, yes. And that's where it's coming from. It has a lot of health related thing that we definitely need to do. Our circadian rhythm really makes things affect us, and then depression risk and all of those things. So yes, there is definitely a reason why we should be doing daylighting in terms of our better environment and a better side, but more from the focus of let's connect with the nature from biophilic response and then from the health perspective rather than the energy perspective in general. And there's a lot of research and a lot of articles in terms of saying why is it so good. But this is a beautiful building because we can see outside, we can connect to nature. We have a biophilic component to it. And we should do it for those reasons so that we stay healthy. We do it for the right aspect, but not necessarily um, from energy saving perspective. One of my best case studies and one of my best projects that I was involved with was this MRI space and healthcare projects, whatever we can do when we are in so much of stress, connect them to that side. So enhance those views, make it really helpful. And that was the end. And I hope I finished on time. Maybe we have some time for questions.
That was great, Sukreet. Thank you. I always remember that image at the end. I remembered that from when you presented the first time. It really stuck with me. You know, connection to the outdoors is so important. Does anyone have questions for Sukreet?
So on the example where you did the case studies of the office and you had the split windows with the view daylighting windows above the view windows, were there different properties for the view windows versus the daylight windows?
I think in terms of the amount of light going in, possibly the same, and the clear story windows were translucent in terms of how the light was distributed.
Okay.
But Well, let me take that back. I think the vision windows, and I think it's in one of the properties slide that I had, vision windows was much more like 50, 60%, and that was probably 30, 40%, but translucent.
Okay, great. I missed the different properties, but that's, yeah, nice to see designing the specific window properties, separately for the two halves.
Yeah, just want to make sure. So VLT 0.4 for that one and 0.25, but just diffused.
Ah, sorry. Okay, great. I missed that one. I saw it.
No, you are completely good. I didn't remember that either. It has been some time I've done that simulation.
Any other questions?
So this is not so much of a specific question, just more of a comment, but yeah, for the non-energy benefits, right, for office buildings or for any kind of buildings, the cost of the occupants is so expensive, and anything that can improve their quality of work, or if it's a hospital, shorten their stay, is so critical. But it's hard to find good data for that. I know there's been studies, but do you have any suggestions on where to find like data to back up the value?
Yeah, I mean, that is always difficult, right? But at the same time, I think AutoCase have done a lot of good case studies at that point, as well as there's another group. I've seen some of their case studies also. I can share that link, which they have quantified a lot of things. And I've used their format and actually used it on our projects now in terms of that quantification, whether it's in the term of, say, amount of sick days, and then use that research to back that up. And then same thing for our productivity side of it. But again, there's no hard and fast data. And I think our industry will help if we can do that more and more. Yeah.
Thanks.
But AutoCase, you know AutoCase though, right? They have created a ESG. They did a really good job with our the San Francisco airport. They looked at environmental, social, and all of those aspects of it. And then I'll find the other organization that they quantified. That was pretty good too.
Is Heshang Mahon Group the other one you were thinking of?
No, Hisham Mahon Group had done a lot of daylighting studies in general, but I think at this point they're so much outdated, in my opinion. Not necessarily the best in case for today's environment.
Right.
But they have done it like recently, like 2-3 years ago. Not to the same extent of Hisham Mahon Group, because those were much more detailed.
Yeah.
At least they have done a research and then quantified and blah blah.
Yeah, I think it's a good point, David, though. Like, yeah, it's hard to sometimes sell it, but hopefully as, things evolve, people see more and more all of the benefits. So maybe we won't have to convince so much in the future. So, yeah.
Thanks.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Sukreet. I think just in the interest of time, let's move over to Yue and her presentation. So let me introduce her and give her a chance to get her presentation up. So Yue and I actually went to grad school together at the University of Washington, so I know her quite well. And thank you for being here. So she's going to present on deep neural networks and long-term luminance maps. She is a building technology researcher and software developer. Her research lies at the intersection of artificial intelligence, physically based simulations, computer graphics, and architectural design and lighting. She's currently a research scientist at Wormpex AI Research, where she builds state-of-the-art solutions and develops tools to simulate large-scale retail environments in order to improve customer shopping experiences with thermal and visual comfort and reduce operation costs in energy efficiency. She has a PhD in computation lighting from the University of Washington, and holds a Master of Building Science from University of Southern California, which I believe she also shares with Sukreet. I think they're both alums from that program. And I'm honored to present her. So Yue, if you'd like to share your screen and get your presentation started.
Yep. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay. So thank you, Nico, for the introduction, and hello, everyone, I'm Yue. So today I'm going to share with you an interesting project called predicting annual equirectangular panoramic luminance maps using deep neural networks. So we all know the importance of long-term luminance maps in architecture lighting studies. Luminance maps explain the luminance environment, such as the precision and intensity of light sources and background luminance levels. Many research studies have shown that luminance distribution patterns determine the visual comfort, such as discomfort glare, visual appearance and perception, and visual performance in a scene. Traditionally, we get long-term luminance maps for existing buildings through simulation approaches. We will visit the scene several times, create a simulation model if it is not available, render images, and perform lighting analysis. However, creating an accurate simulation model is not that easy. We need to perform geometry measurement, which could be quite tedious, material measurement, which may require expensive equipment. Meanwhile, rendering simulations of long-term luminance maps can be computationally expensive. So if we render one image per daylight hour, for the entire year, we need around 4,000 images in order to cover different sky conditions, and that will take a long time to finish. From a practical perspective, existing environment can be easily captured using hidden range photographs. However, these photographs can only capture the thing at the moment, and long-term evaluations require long-term capturing process. What if we can provide a limited number of HDR images and use this information to predict long-term luminance maps? Such images can be either captured using HDR photography techniques or generated using physically-based simulation engines. So how to do this is my research question. And using this method, we can accelerate annual luminance space evaluations. So you already noticed that instead of using traditional perspective of fisheye images, we predict equirectangular panoramic luminance maps. This is because panoramic luminance maps covers 360 degrees of our visual experience and can be converted into fisheyes of any view directions with a fixed view precision. We hope that researchers and practitioners can integrate luminance-based evaluations over multiple view directions into design and research processes without lengthy computing process. So before introducing the research, I want to give you a preview of the results. The left column here shows the ground truth images rendered by radiance. The right column shows the predict image with only 2.5% subset of data. The top images are tone mapped to mimic human vision, and the bottom images are shown in false color to illustrate the spatial distribution of high luminance ranges with a scene. Logarithmic scale here are utilized to correlate with the human visual system, and from these images, we can see the predict results are pretty accurate, which is great. So the methodology of the research is built upon the concept of light transport model. A light transport model defines how light travels through the space. When conducting daylight simulations in physically based lighting simulation engine, the light transport is computed using complex information, such as scene geometries and material properties and so on. With this complex information, given any illumination condition, we can get the corresponding rendering. And given new illumination conditions, we can get more corresponding renderings. In this study, the light transport model is approximated as a relationship between a limited number of HDR images and the corresponding various lighting conditions. We then use a deep neural network to approximate the light transport model. After we get the light transport model, given any new lighting conditions, we can get more predict luminance maps for any time of the year. And we developed the algorithm on the control settings using simulated data. The room model for simulation is a south-facing office located in Seattle with basic furniture. The images are generated every daylight hour for the entire year. So there are total around 4,300 images in the database. This large amount of data is for model development purpose only. When applying the workflow, the user only needs to generate or capture a small set of images. These generated images are divided into 3 groups: training, validation, and test groups. The images in the training groups are the input to feed into the model. The test group images are utilized to evaluate the performance of the method, and there's no overlap between the test group and training or validation group. Here, I'm showing you some image samples from our data set, and you can see they have various lighting conditions. So from the training and the validation set, we extract several parameters to feed into the neural network model. These parameters are pixel locations defined by pixel X and Y coordinates. We have the lighting condition defined by sun precision, which is sun altitude and azimuth angles. Sky conditions defined by direct and diffuse irradiances, which are the basic input for Paris all-weather sky. We also add average luminance per pixel under different lighting conditions, which is a good summary of the scene. And we add sun patch images, which helps us, which helps the neural network to predict direct sun penetrations. The last parameter is the sky maps, which helps reconstruct like the sky distributions. The sun patch images and sky maps can be generated instantly, so adding them as input won't affect the efficiency of the method. So now we have all the input for the neural network training to get the light transform model. Next, we want to process the data to make the computation more efficient. First, all of the input parameters are normalized to the range of 0 to 1. However, the luminance of high dynamic range renderings can span several orders of magnitude. The maximum luminance of the HDR image is 10 to the 8 candela per square meter with the luminance of the sun disk. After normalization, the majority of these values are very low. This diagram shows the distribution of the training data after normalization, and x-axis represents the normalized luminance intensity, and the y-axis represents the number of pixels. You can see that most of the data are concentrated in the lower range, and the model won't converge during training with this data. So we use a logarithmic transform along with the gamma correction to make the data distributed more evenly. Data processing greatly improves the prediction results. When the training is completed, a reverse transform is applied to reconstruct the high dynamic range luminance maps. So I want to give you a high-level summary of the methodology, the neural network training process. We render 3 sets of images using radiance. They are high-quality panoramic images, sky maps, and sun patch images. These images are processed to feed into the neural network for the training process. And after training, we get predict images under various lighting conditions. We tested different data selection methods and proved that it is possible to generate annual luminance maps from a limited number of HDR images using a neural network. The first strategy we tested is to use data that evenly distributed over the entire year. For it to work, we need around 200 images, which is 5% of data. It's already pretty good. However, visiting the building several times over the entire year does not sound applicable. We proved that we can shorten the capturing period to 1 month with images generated or collected during daylight hours around the equinoxes because it covers the highest percentage of sun area, which means we can visit building in March and capture images and predict the luminance maps of December. It's quite cool. Then we can further minimize the data samples by using only 9 days of data. They are collected around spring equinox, summer solstice, and winter solstice, which is only 2.5% of total annual renderings. So next, let's see some prediction results with only 9 days of data. We evaluate the results using several different metrics. The first one is a Human-Centric Matrix Ddp, which is used to evaluate the discomfort glare. Here, each red point represents the DGP value per view angle per time point. So we have an overall understanding of the DGP prediction results. The colors in the graph represent different glare sensations, and we found that there is a strong agreement between the predict and ground truth DGPs. Although there's noise in the graph, the DGPs are within the same category. We also evaluate the results using another human-centric metric, which is showed by a study to correlate with human perception in a given space. We found that the predict result agree with the ground truth ones, except some outliers you can see here, due to the model has difficulties in predicting this really bright dot of the sun, this one, during winter noon. The Philly case are negligible because it is really rare. There are only 4 images of them in the test set. And the situation is avoidable in the real world when people have an ability to change their view directions and position to avoid a direct view of the sun. So we exclude the outliers and get the graph on the right, which shows a great agreement between the prediction and the ground truth. So let's see some image results under different sky conditions to have a better understanding of the results. Here I'm showing you overcast sky. It is clear that if you compare the predict image with the ground truth image, with only 9 days of data, 2.5% of data, the predict results closely match the ground truth results. The second sky condition is intermediate sky. The same with overcast sky. You cannot tell the difference between the predict results and the ground truth result without the help of the error map. And the last one is the clear sky condition, which is most difficult to predict because of the high contrast in the scene. The difference are more noticeable here around high luminance area. But overall, the reshape is very similar. And you can tell the difference with error map. It happens like around the window. So I want to show you next is the worst case, which has the highest prediction errors evaluated by all metrics. This happens during the winter noon with a direct view of the sun. Here, we convert the panoramic image to fisheye images over 10 different view directions, and all images are marked with the DGP values on top. You can see that there are great difference in DGPs with the same view precision, but different view directions, range from 1, which is intolerable glare, to 0.2, which is imperceptible. So now let's see the predict images also marked with DGPs on top, and they closely match those ground truth ones. Lastly, we have the error maps marked with the DGP differences. Results are pretty encouraging, even for the worst case. I think I have 1 minute. So in summary, we have developed a workflow to efficiently perform annual lumen space evaluations. Using this method, we can finish annual lumen space simulations in 1 day and shorten the data collection period to 1 month or 9 days. The predicted panoramic lumen maps can be transformed into fisheye projections for any view direction. And we hope architects, lighting designers, and researchers can effectively use the workflow to perform multi-view annual lighting analysis. And making annual lumen space simulation more accessible will enable further developments of lumen space metrics for daylighting studies and foster wider usage of human-centric evaluations in the design process. We also provide a research example of using deep learning in the context of lumen maps predictions. We think deep learning can be useful tools for many lighting problems, and the code of the projects has been published online, so you can do your own cool things with it. Thank you all for your time, and any question?
Great, thank you so much, Yue. I like the minions at the end. Does anyone have any questions?
I do have a question, actually. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dr. Liu. Your work has been very exciting for me, and when I saw your paper, it was really astonishing, to be honest. But I had I have the honor to work on your project actually for my master's thesis, and I have even found some really interesting results from your work. That was very astonishing. And I had a question from you. Why did you make two branches for your deep neural network architecture? How did it help your the process of predicting the images, luminance-based images,
Yeah.
in the contrary to the direct and fully connected layers?
Yes. So Ali, did I pronounce your name right?
Muhammad Ali, yeah.
Yeah, I remember you.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, from GitHub,
GitHub,
right?
yeah.
And really, thank you very much for answering my question, because I was really stuck doing that, and you really helped me a lot. And I really appreciate you.
Yeah. So I think I figure out, like, when I work on this like machine learning stuff, I feel like from like machine learning point of view, like people use like advanced models, but from like a lighting designer point of view, it's kind of, you have to use like our own like domain knowledge to understand how to make the machine learning works better. So I figure out it's similar like our like 3-phase or 5-phase method. It's like a daylight coefficient method. We try to separate the direct sunlight and with the diffuse skylight part, and that really works. And I found that it also helped with our like machine learning predicting process. If we separate the machine learning model, one, we just focus on predicting the direct sunlight, like the sun penetration, like the sharp shadows, and another one focused on to understand the diffuse reflection part of the the room, the interior part. It works best. That's what we found. Yeah. Did that work?
Thank you very much. And can I ask another question, actually?
Go for it.
Uh, did you test your methodology on BSDF, like BSDF materials? Yeah, I mean, glazing.
Glazing. Not yet. Do you want to do it? It will be like quite interesting if we can
Uh,
test it.
yeah, that would be quite interesting, because if it succeeds in predicting BSDFs, it
Mhm.
would be really a breakthrough in the daylighting simulation, among other tools like Dr. Natalia Jones Accelerate, and to incorporate that with the other glare autonomy paper from Dr. Jones, it would make a really breakthrough in the daylighting simulation industry. I really think.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, I think it's a very good idea. And maybe actually we kind of consider that at the first place. Maybe it's possible to have like a very simple model to model the complex penetration system, like the how light transport what like light transport happen in that phase. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you very much.
The great thing about this is we have lots of connections to each other. So so glad that we can connect you guys, and also Nathaniel. So yes, does anyone else have any other questions?
I have a question. So this is the first time that, I mean, I've saw papers here and there, but this is the first time that I see the presentation. So my question, I think I have two questions. One is that my understanding was that it seems that it works as long as you don't have the sun disk in the perspective. Am I right?
It works best if you it is hard to predict this like sun disk. Let me try to
Okay.
figure it out.
So whenever
Yeah.
the sun is in the view, then there's going to be a problem in prediction.
It won't be like a very big problem in prediction. This part I'm showing like the worst case. It when the sun is like sun disk is in the image, you can get pretty good results. It just the DGP values, we can see some outlier here. Like it will like over predict the DGP and like the RAMG.
So basically you, sorry if my understanding is not as good as the others. So basically you come up, your research is about a new way of simulation, and you want to compare how accurate that is comparing to traditional daylight engine that we had. And then in that case, in order to do the comparison here, you are using DGP.
Yes, I'm using like multiple metrics. The DGP is one of them.
Couldn't be like just compare the images, like your prediction of the HDR photos, compare that to like Radiance HDR image?
Yes. So we also did that here, like on the different.
So you had two different metrics in order to compare it. So the other question I have, there were some graph you were showing that when you change the gamma and that did some changing in the algorithm, then you were able to get the result. So my question was that, do you think that, so we need to basically change, we need to tune the algorithm for each like difficult, say, geometry or different climate, say? Do you think that we need to do this in order to get the result?
I don't think so. I think here, here I'm using like a pretty difficult case. Just want to test the limitation of the method, but like this this transform would be like pretty general.
So say that if you come up with like a specific gamma, like a number, so you're saying that this gamma with this algorithm would work for daylight simulation. Is it going to be the case for all the simulation with all the complex geometry that we may have? Is it going to be the same number for all the climates?
I will say it will work better than the original, you know, data distribution. But if you want to achieve like best result, it is better like to fine tune it. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Yue. I think, yeah, I know we got started a little bit late, so so we're running. Yue, I think you're still sharing your screen, but our next event was going to be Jeopardy. So as long as everybody's up for that, we can jump into that, and David will be hosting that. So I know we, like I said, we were running a few minutes late, so we want to make sure we're respectful of everyone's time. But since it is happy hour, hopefully everyone can stick around for a little bit. Do at least one round of Jeopardy.
Yep. So I'm going to try to share my screen. I think it'll stop Yue's when I do that.
Nice background on Yue's screen.
Okay. Let's see. So you all should see my screen now.
Yes, we do. Yeah.
So what I originally was going to do was have teams, but we're a pretty small group. So I think I will choose the first category, and then whoever answers a question right can choose the next category. But I'll probably have you type your answer in the chat, and then I'll keep, what I can do is on a note, I can keep track of who answers first, and they can become team one, because I can change the number of teams, but I can't customize the team names.
Yeah,
so I'm going to move this. Do you all see the chat blocking part of the board, or is that just on mine?
That's just on yours, yeah.
Okay, great. Then I won't worry about moving it. So I don't know if everyone's familiar with Jeopardy, but like the questions are kind of in a weird format. So we're not going to be real strict on if it's in the form of a question. But we have these 5 categories, and you can pick from 100 to 500 points. My guess is we'll do a few of these, and then if people get tired of it, at the end of this, we can put the link to this in the chat, and then anyone can go through this exercise or this quiz on their own later on.
Yeah, and some of these questions have to do with the presentations y'all just saw. So,
yeah.
So hopefully that gives you some hints.
So this first one, which was in the categories paint in the wall. So since 56 million of these are installed in the buildings in the United States annually. And you can use the chat, or you can unmute and just say an answer if you have one. So this is related to the topic that we have now on daylighting. And it may be on a wall and have a pane as part of it.
Okay, I'll venture a guess. Is
okay.
Is it a window?
They are windows, so I'll give 100
I was
points.
supposed to answer that in terms of as a question was. I guess I did say
what are windows?
Yeah,
that's why we weren't going to be really strict on this, because I don't do a lot of Jeopardy. So because of that, then when I hit escape to get out of here, then Nathaniel, you can choose a topic and a point level.
All right. I'm going to go with the sun will come out tomorrow for 100.
All righty. Many cultures around the world celebrate this day with the most daylight hours. So this is related to the timing of when we chose to have this topic, this happy hour.
The hint is it's Nicole's favorite day of the year.
All righty. Well, I can answer this. This will be no one, the buzzer. We can say, we got Solstice. There we go, Sarah. So Sarah gets that.
Sarah got it.
Solstice is the correct answer. So Sarah is team 2 with 100 points. And then Sarah, if you'd want to, you can either speak or type in if you want to choose like another category and point level.
Daylight metric. 300.
Okay. This certification program changed its metrics to be climate-based SDA and ASE.
Hint here is it was controversial. I don't know if that's so much a hint.
It is kind of I'm not going to answer it then.
Are you asking about the standard or the program itself?
The certification program that's using the standard, I guess.
It is LEED, which uses the LM83 standard, right?
That's correct.
Yes, this is LEED
version
4.0.
4. Yeah.
Very good. All right, so then now you get 300 points. So for team 3
Yay.
now.
I think he got bonus
And
points
you get
too.
to
We said LME3 as well, which we didn't even. So good job.
Now, I want to know if it was more controversial when LEED started doing it or when Wells started doing it.
Good question too. What do you think? I think LEED because it was new, but
I don't know. I wonder if it was because everyone thought Wells should have known better.
oh yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
because
That's a good point. Yep.
because it was controversial already and they had a chance to change it.
I still did it. Yeah.
When I'm using Diva, I got that information from that, and later on, I saw that in that standard.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so I have to pick one, right?
Yep, you can pick a topic and a point level.
Okay. Okay. Daylighting simulation and neural networks.
Okay, is 100 good, or do you want to go higher?
Yeah, I want to go higher.
Okay, any number in
200.
100 and 500.
200. Yeah, I think that would be.
All righty. One of the latest research topics related to daylight focused on human connection to natural and daily rhythms.
Oh.
not necessarily related exactly to UA's topic.
Yeah.
So this is related to kind of sleep cycles or
Yeah. I can't remember its name, but I have seen the alpha program exactly does this job, this kind of job from Solema.
which program? Oh.
As alpha from
Okay.
Solema.
Okay. Well, we can always have no ones. I can show this one, and then no one can have the score for it, and then I can pick the next category. But it's circadian lighting.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it is. One thing I've always thought about is as electric lighting technology gets more advanced, to have it automatically stay in sync with daylighting, because sometimes I can see like the day lighting color is different than the electric lighting color, and where they mix looks kind of funny. So I always thought it'd be cool for electric lighting to, keep in sync with the day lighting.
And I believe also, Nathaniel, correct me if I'm wrong, they also some version of circadian lighting simulation.
Yeah, they have some version. It's interesting. I mean, so they used I guess they got expert consensus on a metric to use, but it's not clear to me that there's really any scientific basis for that. It seems reasonable, but there are studies, and I'm told studies in mice. There are studies in mice that suggest that a much lower level of or shorter period of circadian effective lighting is necessary to entrain circadian rhythms than what well is requiring.
Very interesting. Who would have thought?
Yeah, and I know I worked in healthcare architecture in the past, and particularly at night, I know they're real careful on the selection of what colors are used for lights, in the patient rooms. Like if a nurse has to come in, and I forgot what color it was. No,
Are they deep red?
I think they are. I think you're right. Similar to I guess when you're working on film.
Yeah. I flew on I think it was a transatlantic flight one time, very modern aircraft. It had these color changing lights. I was hoping that they would be, matching the color changes to try to, help people with circadian rhythm, but it just kept cycling through all the colors all night.
So just to be cool and show they can do
Just
it properly.
cool, yeah.
Okay, well, I will pick benefits of daylighting, and I'll do 200. So this can result in 10 to 25% higher scores for students and higher productivity in offices.
So I guess it's, what is daylight?
So we'll have to look at the judges on this. So it's specifically, well, there's daylight, but then also quality of views. So we'll give you the points for that. That's your topic, your team one.
So yeah, some very easy ones. So
I can't give 150 points. I'll give you the full 300. But then you can pick another topic, and we can. I don't know what, I can't remember what time we were scheduled to stop at, but we can keep going on this, or I can share the link, and people can play later. So if people want to keep playing, I'm happy to do that.
I think we should do at least one 500 clue.
Yeah.
Okay, which topic should we jump to? I'm open to any of them.
All right, let's try The Sun Will Come Out Tomorrow for 500.
All righty. I didn't know, whoops, this one. So let's see. In astronomy, this is the technical term describing what appears as a figure 8.
See a lot of smiles there.
I'm not allowed to answer. I made the question. This is my favorite one of the questions.
But I did not know it. It was not a term I had heard before.
Anyone else going to go for it? Because I teach this to my students and none of them remember it.
No, I know the answer, so I can't, because not because I wrote it, because I had to look it up so I could remember the answer for this. So you know then what you said, because you
Oh, I know,
teach it
yeah.
to the students.
Go for it, Nathaniel.
All right, what is an analemma?
That's correct. I wish that you could show pictures as part of the answers for Jeopardy, because it's a cool looking.
Oh yeah, that would be nice. That would be a nice upgrade to this. I could always have it separate. So is it the idea though that if I pick a specific time, let's say like 10 a.m. on a day, like every day of the year, right? And I mark like that spot on the ground, like that'll make a figure 8, right? It's showing that annual cycle.
Yep.
Of the movement. Yeah.
Pretty neat.
Okay. I'm trying to think if there's another good 500 here. It's
What about daylight simulation and neural networks for 500? Just go for it and see.
okay. These renderings have neon colors per pixel data and most accurately represent what the human eye will see. Now, a lot of people might know this, but not think of it by the same name. Oh, I lost my chat, so I don't know if anyone. No one used the chat because I'm not doing that. If you answer, you have to.
Sarah's got something in the chat.
So it's in the chat. I see it there. Right. Okay. False color images of HDR. That is correct. So Sarah was team 2. Whoops. Sorry. Not negative 400. 600. That gives you in the lead. I didn't give Nathaniel the answer for the other one, so that puts Sarah up in the lead now. Did you have another topic you want to choose, Sarah?
Maybe paint in the wall 500.
Alrighty, tempered, annealed, laminated. Am I saying that right? Annealed, laminated, heat strengthened. All of these describe a certain process. Or product, kind of. I'm trying to think of, yeah.
This one was a stretch for daylight, but it's related. So. Anyone have any facade engineering knowledge?
I don't know if we have any answers coming in.
This might be a stumper.
But, yeah. But after the answer, I don't know what the annealed means. I know all the other terms.
You want to put the answer?
So I can, sure. Oops. Well, every time I get out of the part thing, I do that. So what is annealed glass?
It's been a while. I would have to actually look it up.
I didn't know that you could anneal glass. I know, like, so annealing is when you rapidly cool something, I believe.
Yeah. Yeah, because you think that might stress the glass too much and you have it crack. But... All right, well, now we know those.
Yeah, I know that tempered glass is like stronger than annealed glass. So, like, you might want to have different types of these when you're designing your facade, depending on what the purpose is, the application. So yeah, it does come into play sometimes, but it's been a while since I studied up on my definitions. So it's a good incentive to look them up.
So it's funny, before I forget, I realized the secret URL is actually showing on my screen. Like the share URL is not different than the one that shows on my screen. So just in case anyone wants it later, I'll add that here to the chat.
Oh, I think you just sent that just to me.
Oh, oops, sorry.
Right there.
Everybody, let's try that there now. Yeah, it's a pretty cool thing here to kind of set up new ones. Let's see what's another interesting one.
we haven't had daylighting simulation and neural networks for 500 points. We actually had daylight matrix. Yeah.
Let's see. What is the best way to sample input data in order to predict annual luminance maps? All right, so I'll show that one here. So this was kind of to sample data in solstices and equinoxes.
So I have a question about this one. If you don't sample the solstices, are the equinoxes enough to guess what they are? Or vice versa, if you don't sample the equinoxes, can you figure them out from the solstices?
The first seems more possible than the second to me of those two.
I think the same thing. I think that it seems like it's harsher when it comes to solstices comparing to equinoxes. So, but most of the time, even in traditional ways, we always do it in this time. So maybe that's why they do it even for the new research.
Yeah, I think it's possible to just sample the equinox. Like I already showed that 1 month data will be enough. But if we want to like further shorten the amount of data, like only 9 days of data we'll need to like sample from solstices and equinoxes. And then we just need 1 equinox because the March and September, they're like very similar.
How does it? Oh, sorry, man.
You can go ahead.
Okay, sorry. How does it compare to the first method that you introduced using k-means clustering algorithm to sample from the whole entire year in the contrary to the sampling only from solstices and equinoxes?
Yeah, that's a really good question, because surprisingly we figure out you can just sample from this solstices and equinoxes, and you need less data, only 2.5% of data. But for the k-means, you need like 5% of data. So I think it's quite interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, that is very nice.
How are you using k-means?
Should I share my screen?
Oh, sure. Yeah, you can do that. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Really?
Yeah, you can share.
Sure. Let me find it.
Yeah, one thing I was wondering too is, can the data for this be from, I guess, either photographic or like high quality renderings? But I can
Yes.
I see.
Yeah. So just sample along like sky direct diffuse radiances and non-attitude performance. Yeah.
So why would it make more sense to use k-means than just to sort of make a grid over the data and sample the grid?
Sample the grid, what do you mean?
Like, because you're doing k-means on the diffuse and direct, or are you doing k-means? Okay, yeah.
On four
and then you're saying
dimensions.
that like the okay, I see. So the advantage to using k-means is that the area of that graph that doesn't have any points in it, you don't need to sample.
Yeah.
Okay. But it's not like there are actually, like, it's not really clumpy. Like, it doesn't really have clusters in it. It's just sort of, you're using k-means to try to uniformly sample it.
At first, the k-means, like first it will get clusters and then it gets the samples. So we like first divide this like a 4-dimensional space, right? And then we try to like find clusters of this 4-dimensional space. And then for each cluster, we just sample like randomly several data points from each cluster. So it's more like evenly distributed. Yeah.
Okay.
So did I get this question?
So I guess I'm just getting anti-k-means as I get older. I don't know. I don't like the algorithm anymore. I used to use it, but
yeah, I think you're right. Like k-means doesn't work as well as the Solstice and Equinox method.
And just for some background, this was exactly what we were hoping this kind of happy hour would lead to, because one of the inspirations for this happy hour was my first IBPSA event was a happy hour in New York where someone presented on hygrothermal modeling, and nobody else I knew was doing anything in WFI. And it was great because all of a sudden there were like 30 people there that were like doing the same things as me and having the same issues. So this is great discussion. Is anybody up for more Jeopardy or whatever?
I just have another comment to make. Furthermore, about that k-means, how about choosing the sample in each cluster that has the least Euclidean distance to the cluster centroid? Instead of choosing them randomly in each cluster. I think it ensures that we are sampling data that are fully distant from each other, and it reduces the chances of two samples being so near to the frontiers of each cluster and get near to each other. And I don't know, it's a really small chance, but it might happen. And how about this one?
see, Mohammed, the problem that I have with using k-means clustering at all for a case like this is that when you don't have very well defined cluster boundaries, the results of the k-means clustering have much more to do with the initial random seed that you used for the original points than it does with the boundaries, because it's not actually very good at finding boundaries when they're not distinct.
Yeah.
So it just I don't find it very useful to talk about how close a point is to the frontier of a cluster if we can't really tell where that frontier is, if it's just an artifact of the initial random seed.
Yeah, yeah, correct. You're right. But it is just 4 dimensions, and the number of samples is not is about 380. Am I correct? Yeah.
Yes.
And yeah, that pretty much depends on the random seed that the clusters that we start with.
Yeah.
So sampling from solstices and equinoxes is always better, and especially if we want to do this using HDR imagery, I mean capturing a real place, that would make more sense, because there's a more limited time that we should imaging the situation, imaging the view, and then use your methodology. However, I don't know if when we use HDR images, how can we render the average map to use it for the methodology?
Yes, the average map won't be a problem, because average map we just use average map as a average luminance map for training samples. So say if we collect 200 images, we just add them up and divide them, we get the average map. So yeah, so we never touch the other 4,000 images, just this small subset of images.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
So if somebody wants results quickly, right, and maybe they're near an equinox or they're near a solstice, I'm wondering if like you can use computer renderings, HDR computer renderings, but maybe like calibrate or train those with HDR photography of the same building so that you can validate the model at least at some point in time, but then you use the model for the rest instead of having to wait around to get more photos. I don't know if that's been done or if that makes any sense or not.
It hasn't been done, but it's actually, I think it's a good idea. I have done like, yeah.
I thought
Go ahead.
Melika did that.
I think she used the pure HDR.
Wasn't
It's
there
not
like a church or something where she took a bunch of HDR photos and maybe I'm misremembering.
Yeah. Yeah, my work is
Sophia?
inspired. Yeah.
Is the Hagia Sophia, I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I don't think she used the combination, like a mix of simulation and HDR images.
Okay.
Yeah. But for the machine learning part, I think if we use a mix of HDR images and renderings, we may get some like interesting result. Yeah, it's a good idea.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, the other thing I was thinking too is, so there's photogrammetries getting, particularly from panoramic imaging, is the software is getting better and better for that. So you could use HDR to help if you didn't already have a nice detailed model of the geometry. I'm wondering if there's ways to use the HDR from multiple points around the building to create a model, to create the geometry, which you can then render later. It's probably it's going to be like point. You can either use a point cloud as a point cloud or some sort of mesh, or you could try to like cleanly convert it to like verticals and horizontals. And I imagine that would change the results a lot. So it may be more work to do that than to just make a model the traditional way. But I don't know, it'd be neat if somebody could automate that. That could be really neat.
Yeah, I mean, you could potentially even use multiple photographs taken from different positions to try to approximate BSDFs for surfaces if they're all taken in a relatively short period of time.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I was thinking I've been using a FLIR camera recently, and one of the windows are a problem because they're reflections. And if I do video of the FLIR, I can look at how objects move and I can differentiate what might be from a reflection in a window versus what's in the building. But using the different angles to see how, because the light's hitting that window at a different, it has a different behavior from the different angles. But I was trying to get around the limitations of how the glazing gets in the way of the FLIR readings. Because I might get the reading of the sky, right, or the building across the street and not of the glass itself.
That's really
which
cool.
is what I ideally want to get.
You can differentiate that. The technology is there to do that.
So I know, as far as I know, no one's written any software to automatically clean that up, but it seems like the potential's there for that.
Yeah, I saw a paper last year. It's from Facebook Reality Lab. I think they try to figure out how to model the mirror, like when they do like 3D reconstruction, how to like render the mirror, like reconstruct the mirror. It's kind of similar problem. Yeah.
This is great. The talks are both really interesting to me. It's a topic I don't know a lot about. I mean, I know some, but coming more from an architecture and then energy modeling. So learning more about this daylighting research is great.
Can I actually ask another question from you, Yue? I'm really sorry. I'm just asking a lot of questions from you.
That's what this is for. As long as you're okay with that.
So your model is actually what you're doing actually is you've created a regressor that regresses each pixel separately. Is that correct? Something like that. And well, when we increase the dimensions of the image, well, our samples gets proliferates. The number of samples proliferates, and they get so many. I was wondering if we use 800 by 800, something like that. That is the recommended resolution, image resolution for the eval glare application on radiance to use for DGP. I was wondering how slower would it be if we use 800 by 800 images compared to the dimensions that you use in your paper?
Yes, that is a thing. Like when we first create this data set, we didn't consider like use very high resolution pictures because it's only me and it take a long time to render.
Yeah,
I think
it takes
it
very
took
long.
me like 2 months or 3 months to prepare all the data, like 4,000
Wow.
images. So,
Yeah.
yes, that's the reason. But I think if we increase the data set to like resolution, like larger resolution, it won't affect the result very much. The the efficiency. It won't be
Yeah.
a big, yeah. It just like we don't have that data set. Yeah.
But does it, but using a higher dimension image, does it lead to the algorithm to require a little less samples? I'm just guessing. I'm just thinking because we have more samples that we are feeding our network with,
Mhm.
and when we are having a larger image, um, does it is it conducive to a requirement of lower samples for images? Like in your paper, you use something like 200 images, for example. Um, uh, let's say we decrease it to 190 or even less.
I have a little confidence in that because we figure out it's best to help the best way to help neural network to figure out like different lighting conditions
Yeah,
is to sample the images of various like luminance, like various sun conditions, like sky conditions.
yeah.
So like for the same time point, if we have like more data point, it won't help much with the the training.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
yeah, and in addition to that, actually, I just figured out that our average map would be biased toward the limited number of samples, and that creates a kind of error in the output images. Yeah, so uh, it might help a little, but we can't. Yeah, as you said. You have a
Yeah.
little confidence in that. Thank you.
Yeah. So
Another thing that I figured out that it was the your algorithm was very dependent on the average map. And I was trying to figure out a way to reduce its dependency on the average map. However, I had a little luck in there. I mean, uh, and I was working on the reducing the dependency of the algorithm on the average map. And another thing that comes to my mind is that we create another algorithm that improves the average map while we have a limited number of samples. Um,
oh
yeah,
so So you are saying like you're trying to avoid of the average map, so just like reduce the input parameters. Is that what you're saying?
What I'm saying is that if we cut down the number of our samples that we are creating the average map from, the average map would be biased toward each sample more drastically. Like
Yeah.
we can see the sharp edges of the light if it is available inside of the room. I was thinking of if we come up with a new algorithm that maybe another network that in addition to the main network works to improve the quality of the average map.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I
Is
think
that
that is doable. Yeah, I think it's doable. So how is your like master thesis? Did you finish it?
yeah, I have finished my master's and I have to defend my dissertation in 2 weeks. So
Oh, good luck.
thank you very much. And I'm very euphoric and excited to work on further research based on your research, like BSDFs and other stuff to improve the algorithm and overall accuracy and speed.
Wow, that's really interesting.
Yeah, your work is astonishing, and I'm really excited about it. And I really want to work to make it even better.
Great, thank you.
Well, you have the support of this group behind you. We're all rooting for you.
I'm really sorry. I'm really sorry.
No, don't be sorry. Like I said, that's what this is for. But I do know I want to be respectful of everyone's time. I know some of you are on different time zones, so it might be in the middle of your afternoon. So we'll
Yeah,
have
it's
a great discussion.
actually 3 a.m. here.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, wow. You're
where
very
are-
awake for 3 in the
where are
morning. Yeah.
Where are
Yeah,
you?
I'm really sleepy right now. I'm keeping my eyes like this open very hard. I'm having a really hard time to keeping my eyes open, and I'm really having trouble to speak.
Where are you located?
I live in Tehran in Iran.
Oh wow, yeah, big time difference. So
Yeah.
thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much for creating such opportunity for me to attend and speak with all the pioneers in this field. I'm really excited and I'm really happy that I have seen you all.
Yes,
It is a really great pleasure and it's been a delight for me to talk to you all.
ours too. That means this was a success. So thank you. Thank you to Yue for speaking and David for hosting Jeopardy. And so yeah, we'll have to talk about our next event, but really happy everyone could join us and happy summer solstice. So
I gotta go out and get in the sun now. It hasn't
yeah,
set here.
it's very gloomy here, so no sun, but got outside a lot this weekend. But yeah, thank you all so much. And unless anybody has anything else, I think we'll wrap our first happy hour up.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks, Nicole.
See you all later. Bye.
Bye bye. Thank you very much.